I think the direwolf is absolutely a symbol of hope. For one thing, to bring something back from extinction, it's a transformational moment in human history, right? This is something that's never been done before. But it's also extraordinary because along with the concept of moonshots and what they bring along the journey, you have the direwolf that comes back from extinction, but along the way what you've done is you've learned all these things you need to know to help salvage populations that haven't gone extinct yet. That's the joy of it, right? You do something that is exciting and cool, but along the way you have to invent technologies to get you to that moon, and the technologies turn out to have all these side benefits. There are many people who talk about the risks of going forward with something. It might fail, it might have an unintended effect, it might grow out of proportion. If we're going to talk about risks, you also have to talk about the risk of doing nothing. And unfortunately, we know what that risk looks like. It looks like what we're doing now, which is watching thousands and thousands of species on the brink of extinction.
Extinction is a colossal problem. Some scientists have estimated that by 2050, half of all species that are alive today will be extinct. The truth is that extinction happens. Species come and species go, and extinction has happened throughout evolutionary history. But right now, the rate of extinction is estimated to be 1,000 to 10,000 times faster than the base rate in the fossil record. And a lot of that is our fault. We need a solution.
Every single project that we do at Colossal, we're focusing on building technologies that can help conservation. We do not decouple de-extinction from species preservation. We think that they go hand in hand.
If we want a future that is both biodiverse and filled with people, we are going to have to become more efficient gardeners of the ecosystems of this world. These technologies make that possible.
So here, in the work toward de-extincting a particular species, we learn all the ways in which we can identify the precise genes necessary for key attributes so that when we look at an endangered species and we look at its habitat changing, we can say, well, now I understand better how I might be able to help it adapt to a slightly warmer, slightly drier, slightly saltier kind of environment and prevent it from going extinct, even as we work in other areas to try and slow the change in the habitat itself. From the very beginning, Colossal has been very clear about its support for the conservation community and the goals of conservation. And it has been very active in trying to reach out to groups that are embedded in that world, as well as to reach out to populations, indigenous and others, that have been at the forefront of that conservation movement. And it's been offering its assistance, financial and technological and intellectual, to these communities from its very beginnings. So this is a company that has always seen de-extinction as its moonshot and conservation as the journey that accompanies that moonshot along the way.
Our long-term goal is to build this end-to-end de-extinction toolkit that any government, conservation group, or organization that wants to leverage the technologies for species preservation can do so for free. So currently, we're actually working with Bridget Von Holt and a team of folks on the red wolf, which is a critically endangered wolf species here in America, and we have a lot of biobank samples from it. We can now do genetic analysis to understand which is the most genetically diverse founder lines that have been frozen, and then we can use our technology to clone those wolves and bring them back, so we can not only just reintroduce and make more red wolves, but reintroduce the right red wolves with the right level of genetic diversity so that that population can thrive again.
The ability to introduce more genetic diversity into the red wolf population because of the Colossal Direwolf project is enormous, because what it does is it strengthens the red wolf population for the future, and it expands its numbers as well as increases its resilience, its ability to withstand the next accident, the next disease, the next catastrophe.
Wolves are ecosystem engineers. They are such an important presence in American ecosystems that they change the way everything beneath them is configured, right down to the grasses and trees that grow along streams. Native people clearly regarded wolves as teachers, as totem animals, as animals that they modeled themselves after. And one of the reasons for that is because American native people never really domesticated ungulate herding animals, and so the wolf was not thought of as a menace or a threat. By contrast, the people who arrived from the old world, Europeans in particular, had been herding animals that they had domesticated, sheep and goats and cattle and so forth, for 8,000 years. And so for many thousands of years, old worlders had thought of wolves as a menace and had folded those ideas really into their philosophies and religions with respect to wolves. We're a part of the evolutionary stream of the planet. We're kin to every other species out there. I think we have a responsibility to correct our mistakes from the past.
Right now we're sitting in the middle of this beautiful, secure, expansive ecological preserve that our direwolves call home. So even though this looks like a little piece of the wild, this is actually a really well thought out, secure facility. In addition to multiple layers of containment or fencing that help keep the wolves safe and happy and healthy right here in their preserve, it also keeps people away. In addition to keeping people away, we're always monitoring the animals and the area around them. So we've been working with American Humane to try to identify what are the key welfare components that we should be focusing on so that we can make sure that our direwolves experience optimal welfare. Being the first of their species to return to Earth in the last 12,000 years, there obviously weren't mothers that were readily available to gestate our direwolves. So our direwolves were raised through surrogacy of a domestic dog. The welfare of that domestic dog, of that surrogate, is as important to us as it was the direwolf. So we began working with American Humane Society to find best homes for these dogs after they raised their litters.
I do think we have a moral obligation to help restore the ecosystems and to heal the planet. I think we have that obligation both because in many cases it is damage we have caused, and also because I think that even if it's damage that was done by some event out of our control, we are stewards of this earth and of this environment. And that is something that transcends politics, it transcends religions. You know, it was Teddy Roosevelt, a Republican, who really founded the modern conservation movement's political underpinnings. It was a Democrat, Franklin Roosevelt, who built up the Conservation Corps. It is Christianity that, in its concept of dominion over the earth, includes this notion of responsible stewardship. It is Hinduism that celebrates the idea of the diversity of the biota. It is Islam that thinks of humans as partners in creation. And it is Judaism with this concept of tikkun olam and repairing the world. Across all these different varieties of religion and politics, we find the same impulse, which is that we are part of something larger than ourselves, and of course we have to take care of it because we have the ability to do so.
Darwin essentially confirmed with science what I think indigenous people had long been trying to tell us, which is we are part of the kinship network, in Darwin's instance, the evolutionary river of Earth. We are right in the middle of it. History has an arc, it's got a trajectory, and that trajectory is pointing us towards a more optimistic outlook, it seems to me. I mean, there are a lot of instances where, to be sure, one can become discouraged and give up, but my reading of history is that there's cause for optimism, and an organization like Colossal, to me, is one of the things that gives me hope.